Hello, everyone. I'm Alex Liu, Outreach Director for Youth Voices. And today it's my pleasure to have Willie Ma, Youth Voices founder and president, to share how debate has helped his character in his college application. William has been accepted by both Stanford and Harvard. First of all, congratulations, William.
Yeah, sure. So Youth Voices is a student-led organization that I founded back in May of 2020. And our goal is our main pillar is to help the youth exercise their voices to like express themselves in various forms, right? So to sort of summarize it, there's like three main goals that we have. First is the goal of sort of educating middle schoolers in speech and debate, because for a lot of middle schoolers, in fact, I would even say for the vast majority of them, there aren't opportunities available for speech and debate clubs or coaching at the middle school level. And those are some challenges that I ran into when I was a middle schooler that I realized once I hit high school would have been really beneficial for me to have had. So one thing we do is provide middle school speech and debate training. Another thing we do is we also offer advanced training through the use of cooperating with teachers who are professional speech and debate teachers from all around the country who offer classes online virtually to students that we can provide to students at a discounted rate by working with those teachers. And then the third thing that we sort of do is sort of shifting away from the realm of speech and debate and more focused on events and activism in general. So this is teaching students how to exercise their voices, not just in a competitive setting, but in a sort of change-making setting. So for example, we've done a lot of things related to spreading awareness about mental health, as well as political engagement, working with candidates of local elections to sort of give students an opportunity to practice engagement in that sort of area.
Thank you. So what is your role and responsibility in Youth Voices?
Yeah, so my role is the president slash founder of Youth Voices. So I think there's like a couple main things that I do. First of all, I am coordinating and leading our team, which is consistent of approximately 10 people are on our executive board. And then we also have a total of 6 student teachers. One of them is me, one of them is Zach, which is our vice president, and then 4 others who aren't on our board.
So as for your background, how long have you been in debate, and what is like your background in terms of like competitions, awards, like your debate experience?
Yeah. So my background in debate is it goes a little further beyond high school. So in high school, I'm currently a senior, and I've been competing in congressional debate for the past 4 years since I was a freshman. Before that, I actually first, gained access to debate. I guess like first, dipped my toe into the realm of debate when I went to this camp all the way down in downtown Chicago, and I was in 6th or maybe 7th grade. Might have been in 7th grade. Um, but basically I went there, and it was like very above my head, right? It was like policy style debate, and it was pretty confusing, but I found that like I had some sort of natural talent for it, and I did enjoy it, right? So like throughout middle school, I kind of gained a little bit more insight into debate when I was able to work with some like teachers privately or in small classes that online to sort of train in like public forum and Lincoln Douglas debate. When I got to high school, I found out that the only type of debate that my high school offered was congressional debate. So I was sort of forced to make that change. But I think like, looking back on it, and I think at the time, like I was fine with it. And looking back now, like I realized that I've really enjoyed congressional debate, and I feel like it's like the most practical form of competitive debate in high school. So I've competed a lot at the local, state, and national levels. So just like give a little bit of a summary. So I've been captain of my debate team for the past 2 years. And this year I became the Illinois Congressional Debate Association captain of captains. My achievements, and then at the national level, I probably most notably am a finalist at the Tournament of Champions for congressional debate that happened last year, 2020. And then I've also finaled at, let's see, the Glenbrooks National Debate Tournament. And then I've also semifinaled at tournaments ranging from Sunvite and Blue Key and multiple national tournaments. But I think like the most notable 2 are probably Glenbrooks and then the Tournament of Champions. But yeah.
Yeah, that's great to hear. So we know that from our audience, they probably like also want to hear about like your college application too. So as a student, you've been admitted to both Harvard and Stanford. So has debate made an impact directly or indirectly on your application? And if so, how?
I don't have like a direct line of sight into the admissions offices or how they make their decisions, but given that it was a very big portion of my application, I can say pretty confidently that yes, it had an impact. So I think like primarily The first thing is just like, notable achievements, like objectively finalists at Tournament of Champions and like other national tournaments, like the Glenbrook's national tournament is like relatively high tier in terms of like, awards that go on your college application. And then in terms of my story, like because debate has been a very large part of my life for quite a long time, um, it's sort of like, I talked about it in at least, a couple of my essays, and it sort of like became part of, the story that uh, I like told through my application. And so I think like, yeah, debate has definitely impacted my college applications.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And we also know that as part of the college applications process, colleges are also looking for leaders and people with character. So how has debate built your character?
Yeah, for sure. And I think debate has definitely been a really defining aspect of my life in terms of character growth. So I can speak to mostly about congressional debate because that's where like the majority of my experience has been centered around. And so in congressional debate, right, a lot of important skills are developed as you become more and more experienced with it. So first is like the idea of that a skill that a lot of people, to be honest, don't have just like in general, like in society, I guess, um, is the ability to like really understand and like critically think about different arguments, right? Especially on different sides of the same coin. So like on debate, the unique thing about debate is that it's not just you speaking your arguments, but it's also you listening to other people's arguments. Because in order to refute or like, ask a critical question to someone, you need to understand truly what they're saying, right? Just in terms of like understanding important issues, congressional debate, especially because it focuses on like a lot of different policies that have very real world impacts, because it is like is a simulation of actual Congress, and the topics that we debate in congressional debate are like real topics, right? It's topics that are like aren't made up. They're like based off of real events, real issues, and like oftentimes real legislation, right? So because like we're constantly talking about like those kinds of topics, then it sort of makes us like it forces us to be more engaged in current events, and it forces us to like care about issues that like face a lot of people, and sort of activate like our voices about those types of things.
So what do you think is the next step for Youth Voices, given that it's already doing so well?
Yeah. So looking to the future, I think for one, we're definitely going to continue doing what we are doing and like, trying to make it, even more streamlined, even more effective, a better experience for our students. Like I think there's always ways to improve upon what we offer. We are also looking at certain things that we can do to provide like a greater variety of opportunities for more students. So for example, in the summer, we are holding a 2-week sort of intensive summer camp for middle schoolers and who are interested in speech and debate. And we're going to have 4 different levels, two for advanced speech and debate, and then two for novice speech and novice debate. Um, but basically our goal with that is to provide students who like want to get into speech and debate like an opportunity to really take a deep dive. And then some other things that we're working on, right, we're going to continue to look for new events, and I think we are going to have one coming up like in under a month, related to mental health and art. But we're going to continue looking for events to help our students like grow, and also engage with our students in hosting these events so that they have an opportunity to exercise their voices during them as well. And then we're also working with some students who are along the East Coast, who are working towards like starting, a chapter slash branch in a different section of the country to sort of like outreach to more students as well. So that's something that like we're working on. But yeah.
Yeah. So what makes Youth Voices unique relative towards like organizations that like teach speech and debate?
Yeah, so there's a lot of things. For one, like our teachers are like we have a group of probably the most qualified high school debaters who are teaching middle schoolers in all of like Illinois. Our rankings, like in terms of qualifications in debate, is probably superior as far as I've been able to see. Right, and then it's also the fact that like we are so very like student run online, right? It's very uniquely different because one, it's like students working with students, right? And then two, also the fact that we're all students makes us like very very cheap, because like we're not we're not doing this as like a job, right? We're just like students trying to help students. Like we're not getting like paid salaries for this, right? And so that's also like a pretty significant difference as well.
Yeah. So let's move on to like some general questions to just cap off this interview. So like, what's your advice for like those who are interested in speech and debate, and also like your advice for those planning to eventually apply to colleges?
Yeah. So just starting off with the first one, advice for those who are interested in speech and debate. Um, I think like speech and debate can seem daunting at first, right? And it's natural to sort of find like speaking in public speaking in general like difficult. And especially like when you bring it to a competitive setting, it could be daunting. But I think like the first thing, important thing to recognize is that like at the end of the day, these skills are skills that are like going to give you an edge for the rest of your life, right? Because like those fears are like the same fears that like 99% of people have like naturally, and so when you have like a unique opportunity to overcome that, you have like an edge, right? And for those who are like looking at it competitively, like a competition standpoint, so I think like because what I talked about is essentially like my this right. But if you're like worried about it from like a competition standpoint, I'd say like sort of find what works for you and like I guess like just stay persistent, right? Because I know like it's happened to me, it's happened to other competitors that I've known who've become very successful. We all have this point where we feel like it's we're not gonna make it, right? Like it's too difficult, like we just aren't cut out for it. And like every single time that I've seen it, like we've had this like breakthrough, right? And so I think like not to say like don't know like when you should like shift your priorities, and like not to say like you should right like pour out 100% into something that like isn't your passion, isn't your interest, isn't like something you care about, right? Just like for competitive stance, like you in order to succeed, like you should actually like genuinely want to do it, right? But my point is like it can seem like impossible early on, but like it's for me and for everyone else I know who has felt that way. Like we've proven ourselves wrong, right? So like the point is just like be persistent and like don't be too harsh on yourself if you like don't succeed at first, right? So for those planning to apply to colleges, even though I haven't been through college yet, like I know I've talked to a lot of people who have, right? The important thing to like understand about colleges is the biggest thing that you get out of college is what you put in, right? So it's like it doesn't matter if you are at like Harvard or if you're at like your community college, like you're gonna get like an incredible amount of opportunity that can like set you up completely for the future, for your career, for anything, as long as you put that effort in, right? Point is like you can succeed anywhere as long as you like have that desire to do so, right? But beyond that, in terms of like more like I guess like practical advice, I would say it's the important thing to realize about college applications and like how to write them sort of is that like you're sort of constructing like a story about your life, right? It's important to like think about like when you're deciding which aspects of yourself to put into your application and where, it's important to remember that the things that you're choosing need to like sort of have some sort of like connection, right? Because when you think about it from the perspective of the admission officers, they don't know who you are, right? They don't know all of your experiences. All they know is like what you put down on your application for them to see. So like when you boil it down, you want to make sure that you're boiling yourself down to like a cohesive narrative so that people like when they think of your name, they think like, oh, that's the person who is this kind of person who does that kind of thing and who like is going to be as successful at this school because they're this kind of person, right? So I think that would be like probably the biggest thing that a lot of people might not understand if they haven't like really understood the application process.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing. Do you have any additional things you want to say?
um I think like um additional things I want to say, just that like if you're not part of Youth Voices, you should definitely like check us out. It's pretty cool. But yeah, like in regards to everything we talked about, like especially with like competition and like college applications and stuff like that, it can be stressful, it can be difficult, and just remember that like um, at the end of the day, like your like own growth is like the biggest thing, right? And that's like should be the ultimate goal of these things, whether it's college, whether it's competitions in high school, whatever it is, like the ultimate goal is like your personal growth, right?